today we're learning about functions and equations. Functions and equations. A few basics about functions, okay? You don't have to write this part down, but it's going to be in the recording, so if you want to go back and kind of review over this, then you can. A set of numbers is only a function if each input has exactly one output, meaning you put a number into a function and you get a solution out of it. Well, in the table right here underneath, you see that the input 3 and 4 both have the same output. That can't happen, okay? So that's why I said that that is not a function. All right, so today we're going to be learning about substituting numbers into functions and that type of thing, okay? So you need to know some terms, and we're going to go over this over and over again. First hour really caught on very well, so I was encouraged by that. So if you don't understand at first, just kind of try to hang in there, and hopefully you'll get it by the end. So our x values, that's familiar, right? Our x and y coordinates, you remember that from chapter 6? The coordinates, remember x and y? Our x values are what we call the input or the domain. Our y values are what we call the output or the range. The x values, so this is the part that you'll start writing. The x value is what you put into a function. Okay? When x equals 7, the x value is the input or our domain. Okay, so I'm going to use this function, y equals 5x. Well, my input from example A is 7. So I'm going to input 7 into the function, and I'm just going to solve. Okay? Do you understand what I mean by input? The x value is the input, because the x value is what you're putting into the function, the value that you put into the function. So y equals 5 times what? What was my input? 7. And y equals what? What's 5 times 7? 35. And I would call my y value, because I found y, I call my y value my output or my range. Okay? Why do you think I would call y my output? Why do I call it my output? Quentin?
Because when you multiply it equaled up to your answer.
Yeah, because that was my answer, right? I input a value into my function. I put a number in there. That's my x. And what answer did I get out of it? I got 35. That's my output. So functions it's kind of like a machine, okay? You put something into a machine and something else comes out of it. Input and output. That's what we're doing here with functions. Okay, I want you to do B on your own. Okay, so now on B, I still start with the same function, y equals 5x. Except now, what value am I substituting in for x, Justin? Negative 3. Y equals 5 times negative 3, and y equals negative 15. And that's my answer, okay? So my input was negative 3, and my output was negative 15. Mickey?
Is there a way of checking this?
Yeah. Because if you know what x is and you know what y is it true that negative 15 equals 5 times negative 3? If you plug in your x and y values, they both check out. Okay. So
will it be like an assignment that we have to check?
No, you're never going to have to check. All I want to know is when I say evaluate the function, I want to know what y equals. When you put in a value for x, what's y going to equal? That's what I want to know. Okay, Chris? You're going to need to write the original function. So yes, it would be points off if you didn't write the original function. Okay, well just make sure you do it that way. All right, now in example 2, okay? In example 2, we're making an input-output table. Now, what did I tell you? Which one is input? Is that x or y? X. Which one is output?
Y.
So basically, I'm looking at the relationship between x and y here in this table. So I've given you a domain, and on your homework tonight, you'll see that word in the instructions. Make a function table using the domain, and they give you 5 numbers. Those are the numbers that you plug in to this column. So you need to go ahead and copy down this table. There's 3 columns and 4 rows. Go ahead and do that. All right, so our input values are the values that we're plugging in to the function, okay? So on the first substitution, I would say y equals -2 plus 4, because I plugged in -2 where x went in the function, okay? On the second substitution, what would be my function with the substitution, Justin? Y equals 0 plus 4. What about the third one? Daniel? Y equals 2 plus 4. Okay? So when I go back and solve, what's my output on the first one? What's -2 plus 4? Hazen? 2. McKee, what's 0 plus 4?
4.
All right. Tabitha, what's 2 plus 4? 6. Okay? And now I have my output. On your homework tonight, this is where you'll end. Okay? This is where you stop. Now, just kind of a sneak peek into tomorrow, we're going to take an input-output table and we can actually graph this. Okay? Because in the first one, what was my x value? In the first one, what was my x value? -2. What was my y value? No. What was my output? My input was -2. My output was 2. Okay? So my input, my x, and then my output, my y, makes up a ordered pair. Do you see that? Okay, so for the second one, what's my ordered pair?
0, 4.
0, 4. Very good. 0 was my input, 4 was my output. For the third one, what's my ordered pair? 2, 6. So now I have coordinates to go over to the coordinate plane and actually graph that. Okay? You don't have to do it on tonight's homework, but that's what we'll do tomorrow. Okay? So this part right here, you don't have to do. Now, if you want to kind of just, you're going to have to tomorrow. Okay? So that's where we're going with it tomorrow. Now, one last thing that we need to learn. Okay? Now, I'm looking at a table of input and output values. And I need to look at what is the relationship between my input and my output. How could I get from my input to my output? All right, so I look at the first one. How could I get from -2 to +1? How could I get from -1 to +2? How could I get from 0 to 3, from 1 to 4, from 2 to 5, 3 to 6, 4 to 7? What operation connects the input and output together? Anybody think they know? What operation is connecting my input and output? Okay, let's start with 0. How do you get from 0 to 3? Add 3. How do you get from 2 to 5? How do you get from 4 to 7? So what do you think the operation is? Add 3. So the way you set that up is y equals x plus 3. When you write it as a function rule, you always have to start it with a y. Y equals, and then x is going to be my input, and then whatever operation I need to do to get to my output. Okay? Y equals x plus 3. All right, now I want you to try to figure out the second one. A couple people got it last hour. I was pretty impressed. Okay? I want you to try to figure out the function rule for the second table. Tabitha, what's the function rule?
Divided by -2.
Very good. So how would you set that up as a function? What would you write?
Y equals x divided by -2.
Very good. Y equals x divided by -2, or you could say y equals x divided by -2. Either one would be accessible, okay? Because hopefully you notice that for each input, you're cutting in half to get to the output. Well, how do you get from a positive to a negative number? It's got to be, Hazen, it's got to be divided by a negative. That's how, okay? All right, if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 7.7.